Hi, how you doing? So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to recreate rear sync flash using Adobe Photoshop. It's a really simple process and it can have a dramatic impact on your final image. So if you look at this here, this is the before and then this is the after. So it's a very effective technique. So I'm going to reset this and just walk you through the process. So the first thing you want to do is duplicate the background. So press Control Command J on your keyboard and that will just duplicate the layer. You can rename that if you want. Come up to filter and then we want to come down to blur gallery, and then in here you've got these options. We want to come down to path blur. So up on the top right hand corner you'll see there's the blur tools there. There's actually all the options we just had in that main menu. So what we want to do is come down to where it says basic blur and then select rear sync flash. So if you don't know what rear sync flash is, it is when the flashlight or the strobe light that you're using fires after you've taken the picture. So conventional flashes work by firing the flash and then your shutter on your camera will open and it will freeze the subject. But with rear sync flash, it means that you can then drag the shutter speed almost. So you can drop the shutter speed and then you get this lovely movement effect as well. And if you move your camera slightly as well, it will just exaggerate that. So we've got the option there of the speed, so we can increase the speed of that movement. We've got the taper, which is the end of the flash going off, and we've got this arrow here, so you can position this wherever you want. This is basically going to lengthen that flash, and then in the middle we can pull this down. So if you imagine when you're swinging the camera, you're going in that kind of motion. So you can do this and move this wherever you like. You can add more than one of these as well. You just come down here and click and you can drag another arrow there, so you can do that and that will just double up the effect there. So I'm moving mine from left to right as we see it, and I'm going to just increase that speed a little bit more, and the taper I'm just going to push that up just to show you what that does. You can see that actually tidies up the edge there, so we want to bring that back down because I want that lovely movement there, this feeling of movement that we're getting. So once we've done that, we can then come down to the bottom where we've got the strobe strength. So that is the power of the strobe there. You can see as you add or increase that, that's actually going to decrease that blur. So we want to bring this down, and then the strobe flash, how many we've got, it says flashes there. So we can say we're using 4 or 1, whatever you like to choose is entirely up to you, but you will get different effects. So have a play around with that. Don't worry too much about the final result with regards to the face because we can mask that out in a minute. So let's just pull this up, bring this down, just because I want to really exaggerate that sweeping movement there. That looks really good. So I'm going to say okay to that. Photoshop's going to think about what it's doing because it's quite a big file this, and also we've just done a lot of work, so it can take just a couple of seconds to do, and you'll see once that's done. There we go, there's the result. So now what we want to do is come down to the bottom and we want to select mask. So we're going to mask off the areas that we want to keep. So we're on white, come over to the brush tool, and then we want to change the foreground color to black. And also just make sure that your hardness is set to 0. So the brush is still effective. It's just there's 0 hardness, meaning it's really, really soft. And then let's just increase this opacity to around 20%. Depending on your image will determine how much you're going to increase and decrease that. And then all I want to do is start painting in. So obviously the eyes are going to be the most important part of this shot. So I've gone over that a couple of times. I'm going to bring back the opacity down to about 9%, just because going over them eyes I realize how strong that opacity is actually for this specific image. So I'm just going to start painting in a little bit around the face, and I still want some movement around the ears and around the bottom of the chin there, but I just want to make sure that I get her eyes in nice and sharp. Maybe just add some of this hair in. So once you've gone over that, because we are on a really low opacity, we can come back, change the foreground color to white, and now we can start adding back in that effect. So I'm going to make the brush smaller by just using the bracket keys on the keyboard. And then if we look, we can just start really fine-tuning these specific areas that we want to blur. So I'm going to go to the top of her lips here and just start painting that effect back in. but I want to keep this section of her lips sharp, just so there's some definition there. And like her chin here, that could actually do with being a little bit more blurred. So I'm going to increase the opacity up here and just start painting that effect in. So this is the point at which you need to spend the most amount of time now. It's just really defining areas that you want to be blurred and that you want to be sharp. So obviously if you go too sharp, then it's going to look false, because there would be some blur around the eyes, but we want them to be sharp. So you just need to try and imagine what it would be like in camera. So I think that's pretty good. That looks good. So I probably would bring down the effect here in the middle, because her makeup is now smudging across her face. So I would probably bring that back just so we don't get that much blur, and then come back and just maybe just add a little bit instead. There we go. That looks a lot better. Okay, so that's it. It's as simple as that. That gives you this lovely effect of rear sync flash. And again, you can really, take your time with this and just work out where you want these blurs to be and where you want it to be sharp. And yeah, there's no right or wrong way of doing this, but it does give you this lovely movement effect. So if we come to the history, I click on the little camera down here, you can see that's the before and that's the after there. And here's the one that I've done earlier, so that's got a lot less movement on it. As you can see, that's a lot more. So it's a really fun way of making your images pop and just gives them a little bit of a different look. And this is a process that I use a lot with my work. So I hope you enjoyed that. I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.